All right, we will officially call this special city council meeting to order October 2nd, 2023 at 4 p.m. with 5 of 7 members present. The other 2 are currently en route and will join us in executive session. So what we'll do is we will start with the pledge. We'll be saying the pledge 3 times tonight, so plenty of practice for the Texas flag. So if you'll please join me in standing and saying the pledges. All right, do we have any public comments, Tammy? No? All right, awesome. So City Council will convene into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074, personnel matters to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, and duties of a public officer or employee, city manager search - interviews, and we will go into executive session at 4:01 p.m. Thank you. Executive session at 5:46, having taken no action. We're going to skip mayor and council comments. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? All right, we have a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously 7-0. We will move on through here. I will now officially call to order a joint workshop between Manvel City Council and Planning, Development, and Zoning, October 2nd, 2023, at a little bit late, so my apologies to everybody, but it's going to be at 5:47 p.m. We have all of council in attendance. Then we have Ryan Miller, Kyle Marshkin. We have Dorothy Wynn and Christy Kennard present. And so we have a workshop session for discussion for permissible commercial land uses in the Del Bello Lakes PUD for 30 plus or minus acre site located at the southwest corner of Del Bello Boulevard and State Highway 288. So Dan, we'll turn this over to you first. We have some people to give us a presentation tonight, and then we'll have some discussion afterwards. Oh, we also have Marianne here as well. Do we have Kenneth? Is Kenneth here tonight? Or Kenneth's not here tonight, okay. And then no Mohammed either? No, okay. All right, Dan, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And in the interest of time, I'll ask as if David and his team can come on up. So just a real quick overview. So this project is on 288 right at Del Bello Boulevard. It's on the southern corner. So the northeastern corner is the Toyota dealership. This is the southeastern corner that we're talking about. And I won't steal your thunder, so I'll actually just let you jump right into it, David, if you want to.
Actually, I'd be welcome for you to steal my thunder. Good afternoon, everybody, members of council, members of P&Z. My name is David Mintzberg, and I serve as the managing partner of the land that is under discussion. Some of you, there's at least 2 council members that I think I've appeared for previously, and there may be more, pardon me, but I think years ago I made some presentation, and I think Council Member Hudson was there and Council Member Akery. So this is a part of what was originally a little over 250 acres, and I came and I presented on multiple occasions to Manvel City Council and to P&Z as far as presenting a development plan. And took a little while, but I'm pleased to say that we met many times, and I think these council members will remember them for too. We met many times, and we were able to arrive at an outcome that Manvel liked and that we were able to pursue, which involved my group sold off approximately 200 acres for single family to what was Shea Development. And then we sold off approximately 18 acres to Keating Toyota. I have with me a representative of Keating Toyota who will speak in just a minute. So what we have now is 30 acres that Dan has identified, and we have a couple of different plans, and I think you have in front of you the site plan that looks like this. So we have been approached by 2 different purchasers to do development here. One is Keating Toyota, and they're interested to purchase from us. You think of Del Bello coming in here, being approximately 500 feet back, and then it would be everything that's marked by this parking lot and then coming around the corner this way. If that's not too confusing. So this piece here, and then coming around to here. And that is approximately 16 acres. And Keating Toyota, that you know, and I believe is, if they're not the largest taxpayer in Manvel, they're certainly in the top 1 or 2 or 3, but I think they are the largest taxpayer here. Separately, we've been approached by a different purchaser who's interested to buy all 30 acres, also a car dealership. We have marketed the property We've had inquiries, but we have not had any offers from anybody else other than the two car dealerships. We're here to make a presentation to get input from council and from P&Z as to what we work as we did last time. Really, the only thing that I would add to that is, we worked closely with y'all previously and found that was a good outcome, and we're back on that same basis. And with that, I'm going to introduce Keith.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, committee members, planning, development, zoning. No worries. Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. I'm Chris Wall. I'm general counsel for the Keating Auto Group. A little bit about us. We are a group of auto dealerships based in Texas. Our corporate headquarters is in Victoria, Texas, is where I'm from. And one of our dealerships is Keating Toyota. As David said, we worked several years ago to purchase that 18-acre tract where Keating Toyota is currently located, and worked with the city and David on the development of that tract. I think it is currently and remains our biggest and I would say our nicest facility that we have among the 28 stores that we have in our group. We had such a good working relationship with the city of Manvel and with David that we began to look at what that tract, that existing 30 acres is used for, and was there something that we could possibly use that for and bring to benefit the city of Manvel. As he mentioned before you is just a very conceptual site plan that we have put together. It shows, obviously on the portion that he described, what our goal and thought of how we could use and benefit that property through the use of eventually 2 auto dealerships. I will say that in comparison to Keating Toyota, our thought is these would be smaller facilities. If you'll look, we've just put some footprints in. I think they're, the 30,000 square foot buildings. So it's much smaller than in comparison to Keating Toyota. We've tried to be very cognizant of in the layout and kind of the details on this site plan to try to provide ample green space, buffering areas between us and the neighboring neighborhood. And so this is just, again, very conceptual, very preliminary, but wanted to come and get your thoughts, as David suggested, on your input and feedback. I hope that as Keating Toyota that we have been good members of the community. I hope that you agree that we have given back to the community, that we have been very involved, Chamber of Commerce, city events, fire, police. I think that we've tried to do that, and obviously anything that we brought here would have that same mentality and would do the same things. I couldn't tell you what the dealerships are right now. I think they could be Honda-like dealerships, and that's not a Honda plug at all. It's just I'm trying to give you an example of what I think that it could be. We don't have anything set in stone right now of what the brands would be, but again, we think that it would be a very good opportunity. And know if you're familiar with the Keating Toyota move, we relocated that dealership from Alvin to here. I don't think that would be the situation with these. Obviously, they're not existent yet. I can't for certain, but I think these would hopefully be add points. And my point, the importance of that is I think these would be bringing new jobs to the area, not a relocation from an existing facility. So, anyway, at that time I will shut it down and take any questions that you all may have. For David.
David, Chris, thank you so much for being here and for this presentation. I do want to say that Keating is very involved in the community. Miranda, who you have working there, she's everywhere. She's like the Energizer Bunny. She does a lot, and so we appreciate y'all's contribution to the community. Before we open it up to questions from council and PD&Z, Dan, I have just 2 questions to provide us a little bit of context here. Can you explain why we're having the joint workshop tonight and what sort of action would be needed in the future that necessitated this workshop?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. And you're right. So we haven't had a joint workshop in several years, and now we've had 2, in 2 months. So the rationale behind this one was, as we started off at the beginning, the development agreement that we have with David's group specifically identified only one car dealership would be allowed, and it's the one that's already there. So we would need to open up that development agreement. What's that? In the PUD, correct, in the PUD. And so the reason we wanted to do this as a joint workshop is because if they went straight to PD&Z ran the traps and then presented a recommendation to council, and council said, well, what'd you spend all this time for? We don't want this in the first place. So we wanted you all to get to hear the same story at the same time. And if this is something that council would like to pursue, then we'll all hear it tonight, staff and PD&Z together, and we can get together with their professionals and work through the PUD amendment and development agreement amendment.
Not only is it time, but it's money for them
Sure.
as well, and it makes sense to do this. Second question is, do we have any other potential dealerships that are currently being talked about along 288?
Jessica, could you correct me if I'm wrong, there's been discussion, but we haven't even had a pre-development meeting with any other dealerships, have we? Oh,
We've had a pre-development meeting with the DeMontron
Sure,
folks,
to the
well, not
north.
necessarily them, for property that's in our ETJ, around the Sedona Lakes area, so yes.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Just
for that.
further to the north, on the same side, on the east as well. But nothing in Manvel proper. Yes, sir.
And so the real question for all of us tonight is whether or not there's a desire to open up the PUD to allow for an amendment to the PUD to specifically accommodate what's being proposed. So that's the direction that they're looking for tonight. But does anybody on council or PD&Z have any questions or comments? If so, please raise your hand and we'll recognize you. Mary Ann, please.
Is dealerships the only thing that's being considered here, or is there going to be maybe buildings for businesses? Because I know it's just a drawing, but it almost looks like there's a couple of extra buildings there for other businesses to come in besides just dealerships.
Yes, thank you. If you look at what's drawn out along Del Bella, that would be for future development. This time, we do not have
Okay,
any
what are in those plans?
purchasers for it. And quite frankly, there's just not enough rooftops to support anything else.
Okay, thank you.
Kyle.
My biggest question on this is drainage. Because you're going to have a lot more concrete. And is this going to go into the subdivision for the drainage?
No, I mean,
You want to talk about your master plan for Del Bella? Yes, sir. Was that contemplated in the master plan?
yes.
Okay.
I mean, that is all.
Right.
We would absolutely take care of the drainage within the site.
Within the site.
I do want to, if I may return to the question from Ms. Eckert. We have been approached some time ago, I forgot about it, but the question triggered that in me. We have been approached by a multifamily developer. Previous council was explicit to us that that was not something that anybody wanted, but we have, in, giving you a full answer, we have been approached by a multifamily developer, and we told them that we didn't think that that would be feasible at this time.
And what I'll also add is one thing to keep in mind as we consider this. This is the entrance to the city's 160 acres as well. And so this land is very valuable land, not only to Mr. Mintzberg, but also to what do we want to define the city as we enter into the 160 acres. So with HEB opening, there's a lot of excitement that's coming. With some of the potential anchor stores that they're also going to have, there's a lot of excitement. And so, we have to make sure that we consider what's in the best interest for the here and now, but also for the future. So any other questions or all right, we'll go David and then Dorothy. And then we'll go Harry after Dorothy. David, please.
I'd like to continue on with the conversation about the drainage. So you're saying on site, so we're, somewhere on this drawing, we're probably going to have a retention pond.
We would comply with all engineering requirements to make sure that
Okay, so that's going to eat into your layout here quite a bit.
as necessary, yes, sir.
So have y'all thought about that? Have y'all done any layout proposals with the retention pond, or where the retention pond would be? Would it come out of this proposed 2 auto complex, or would it be from the other land, or
We're not that,
not that far yet?
you know,
Okay,
Just really wanted to start here with this preliminary discussion.
sure, sure.
But we understand that is our requirement.
Okay.
We'd be in full compliance with City of Manvel,
Thank you. Appreciate that.
No, we know drainage is a big deal. We've had to deal with it on multiple sites, big and small, so we know.
It's a lot of fun.
Yes, sir.
So how many dealerships do towns hold? I mean, you said you had 28 stores. I assume they're each separate dealership. So I'm wondering, like, how many are in Pearland, how many are in, how many are in, I don't know, surrounding towns? How many, it sounds like that would give us 3 dealerships. Is that what I'm getting?
Yes, ma'am. So to your first question, we're spread out all over Texas, so I won't bore you with the list of where we are.
How many are in one town at a time? Because this would put 3 in one
It
town.
really varies. In Houston, we have, I guess, 3 or 4. In College Station, we have 5. We have 1 in the San Antonio area. It totally just varies.
Sure. How many people live in College Station?
Oh, I don't even want to guess. I mean,
Houston?
how many people do?
You said you had several.
We do, yes, ma'am.
Right. So, how many places are in Pearland?
We do
There-
not have, I'm sorry.
Do you have any idea of how many dealerships are in Pearland?
No, ma'am, I don't. We do not have any stores in Pearland. The
3?
Keating Auto Group does not.
Keating doesn't, but there are 3 dealerships in Pearland.
Okay. And do you happen to know how many people are now residing in Pearland? Just out of curiosity.
I think we have a Pearland council member here. Do you know what that number?
130,000 people.
Put him on the spot.
Okay. I was just wondering why Manvel would be the place you'd pick as a place to make home for 2 more dealerships. What's the metrics that you come up with for that?
A lot of the metrics is determined by the manufacturer, the franchise distributor, who decides if that market can accommodate. It's not really where we picked. I mean, it's
Sure.
a couple things, but the franchise or the manufacturer has to say, yes, you can put a store there. And they only approve that if we can demonstrate that there are the customer base and the planning volume that's available.
And
So,
spread out
It's
proximity
very,
as well.
very restricted, and a very big and long process to go through the manufacturer process to get that approved. Even for us to move Alvin to here, Toyota of Alvin, sorry, to here in Manvel, that had to be approved by Toyota.
Okay, and all that's been done, I take it that's already been worked through?
No, in this particular instance, no, ma'am, it hasn't.
Oh,
because
okay.
We just wanted to start with this preliminary meeting to find out.
Gotcha.
Correct, yes. ma'am.
Okay.
That's why I couldn't tell you. If you
Any of
asked
the
me,
metrics.
I couldn't tell you who the manufacturer would be or what the brands would be.
Sure.
We haven't even got to that.
Sure.
Question.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Couple, so you said jobs. How many jobs would that possibly bring?
It obviously varies by dealership size. Typically, depends on the size of the store. But, a store that size, just on average, could be 60, 75 people. Again, it just depends on the size of the store.
Okay.
So it's, we have dealerships that have 150 to 200 employees, and then we have some of the smaller stores that have 75 to 100 people. So,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Yeah, so, and then, I'm sorry, and then this space right over here, that's future sale, that's that's not y'all, right? Right, okay. Thank you.
So you said preliminary on all this. Have you already actually talking with TxDOT? Because I see, okay, so you haven't even started that. Okay.
Well, I've had lots of discussions with TxDOT over the years, so we wouldn't necessarily need to talk. I mean, maybe you know something I don't know, which you will be, but we wouldn't need a TxDOT approval here.
Really, the entrance on 288,
It's already there.
because looking at this, that's what it shows.
Oh,
Yeah.
that part, yes.
Yeah.
I've had that
Yeah.
discussion with TxDOT.
Okay, yeah.
Many times.
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions, and these might help. So just so I have clarity on this site plan here, the proposed site is right here, right? Where this line is, and here, this kind of L. So do we have any idea what is planned or what's going to happen to this land back there?
You're talking about the frontage on Del Bello and
The Del Bell, the rest of the land that's not included in that.
we just don't have any interest right now.
No interest right now.
You've got approximately 450 to 500 rooftops now in the 200 acres that I sold several years ago. And I think somebody has purchased across the GCWA 500 acres. And, that'll be a decade. And even that's barely enough to interest folks.
Okay, so according to what you said was previously you had interest from multifamily developments, correct? And those were a no-go. Therefore, this opened up for the dealership to have interest in it. And so it makes sense because they're across the street, they're active in the community. And so my second question would be for Mr. Chris. I know that you're general counsel with them, and my history, a little bit with dealerships and how they decide where to put dealerships has to be with proximity of where the other closest dealerships are, within Houston or Manvel. And so do you have an approximate of where the nearest Toyota or other franchise is in retrospect on 288? Because from my recollection, it's Ford, which is 2 exits down, and then after that, the only next thing is 610, where you have, I think Davis Chevrolet, but that's to the left, and then McDavis all the way down 610. So coming down 288, there's really what it sounds like to me is it's a prime location for a dealership, correct?
I think that's correct. I mean, yes, and in terms of how, because I don't know what these brands would be, I can't tell you what the nearest other franchise would be close to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you said is probably accurate in how far the next dealership is, maybe it's Ford or something like that. With regard to your question about spacing, a lot of that's driven by the manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
There are rules in the Texas statutes, the franchise laws, that dictate the ability to protest another dealer that's moving within 15 miles of another. So 15 miles is kind of just a loose standard. But again, that's a franchising rule through the Department of Motor Vehicles, the DMV. From a manufacturer perspective, they have matrix that they use that determine how close dealerships are amongst themselves.
Okay. The second question, which you may or may not know, is when it comes to the success of Keating Toyota as it is and as it stands right now in the community of Manvel, Texas, do we have any type of data to show how many people outside of Manvel are being drawn here for Keating Toyota, and possibly what that would bring as far as people who come to shop there, do business here, eat here, jobs here? Do we have anything like that in regards to this plan?
I'm sure we could pull some of that information to the extent that we could pull it without violating any privacy rules.
Of course.
But from a dealership perspective, I suspect that we could pull that. It would be, I think it'd be a couple things. One, you have registration records to show that where the people are buying their vehicles and then maybe getting them registered, be it if it's outside of Manvel or wherever. And then just, obviously, just sales records of addresses of where did this customer come from, did they purchase, et cetera.
It's basic analytics is where's your market base coming from? And do you guys have, forgive me for this question, do you guys have marketing on like commercials that say Keating Toyota in Manvel, that state we're in Manvel, that bring notoriety to Manvel at all?
I believe we do, yes.
Okay.
I mean, we change up our advertising frequently. Sometimes we do commercials, sometimes we do radio, different things. So, yes, I do believe we do. I'm very confident we use that.
Well, if you did, I would love to see Keating Toyota in Manvel, specifically on those radio ads and TV ads to help bring, the old.
If you know Miranda, she handles a lot of the
Love
social media
Miranda.
stuff. Yes, she does everything she can to spread the word, and so
Yeah.
I feel very confident she's on that and promoting Manvel as best as she can. And so, we made a decision years ago to move from Alvin to significantly invest in Manvel. And I think we've done that. Again, that's our biggest facility. We've spent more on that facility to date than we have on any other one. We're very proud of it. We feel like it's a showpiece for us, and hopefully it's a showpiece for y'all. And we would love the opportunity to be able to bring future dealerships to this area. taking into consideration y'all's concerns, right, of the nearby neighborhoods and things like that. We understand. We want to be good partners and work with you all. And that for us is the point of this meeting, is to find out concerns that you have so that we can go back and to the drawing board and figure out what do we need to address, if anything. So,
That's it. Thank you.
thank you.
So you actually hit on a point that's a concern for me. What studies either have been done or will be done regarding the impact of the community, the neighborhood, the neighbors that will obviously become your neighbors when you, or if you build this facility?
I guess I would ask for more specifics in terms of what those concerns are. I mean, I don't know if you're speaking from a lighting perspective. I know that that's.
All of the above, how it will impact.
You know, from a lighting perspective, obviously, your city Manvel has lighting restrictions, so we would obviously have to comply with those, making sure that there's no bleed over onto the neighbors and different things. You know, feeling like that was a concern, I think if you'll see on the site plan, we did increase the buffer area between what would be the dealerships and what would be the back property lines of the neighborhood. It's hard to tell detail on there, but I think we would do whatever it was to make people comfortable, I mean, within reason. But I mean, I think we put some trees on there, some vegetation. You know, I know some people some dealerships have done high fences or walls or different things like that. Those would be the things that we would explore and be willing to consider if it eased the minds of the citizens. But to your initial question, no, sir, we have not done any specific studies to say that, you know, this is it. But we just know that we would have to comply with the restrictions.
But that is obviously that's something you would do. And
Yes, sir, absolutely.
And what I'll say is, because there's been a lot of questions about studies and conversations, so they have not invested the money into any of those studies and into any of that data yet, because they want to make sure that we would be willing to open up the PUD before they actually spent that money. So that's the reason why you hear a lot of it as being very preliminary. So I guess the real question, to get down to the brass tacks, is anybody up here willing to see the PUD opened to allow for this? Because if the answer is yes, then let's give that direction. If the answer is no, then they can determine what they would want to do moving forward, which they could very well still come forward, or they could choose to go a different direction. So is anybody willing to see the PUD opened in order to allow for something like this to move forward?
May I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to send it in there, put it out there. I don't want multifamily residents there. I think that would kind of degrade our area over there. I would really like to see like doctor's offices and stuff like that versus 2 car lots if the other car lot or whatever. But I am very against the multifamily at this time, right there off the freeway and inside that neighborhood entrance.
Yes, ma'am. I well remember that discussion of many, many years ago, and I had renderings and drawings of multifamily, and they're not being presented here, so.
Right, I just want to put that out there.
I understand council's sentiment on that very clearly. With regard to doctor's offices, look, we would retain or remain with enough property on Del Bello
Yeah.
to do multiple. And, you know, frankly, they'd pay us more than a car dealership. So my interest in that would be, you know, well aligned with y'all's interest. And you know, we'd love to do that. We'd love to talk to a developer who would do some sort of center, or doctor's offices or something like that. Again, you know, I want to tell it like it is. With 500 rooftops and even with another, 500 to 1,000 coming over a decade, it could be in the offing, but no, ma'am, that's not in the offing in the next 3 or 4 years. It's just not realistic. And no one would want it more than me.
Mr. Mintzberg, just to provide you a little bit of context, the development that you're referring to is Valencia. It's going to be about 1,000 homes, and they're going to be breaking ground at the end of this year. And so it's probably going to be within the next 3 to 5 years that you'll see probably a full build out of their subdivision. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So I'll state what my opinion is. I think the PUD was written very strategically. At this time, I don't know if I necessarily am inclined to see it opened up. I think, car dealerships, while Keating has done a phenomenal job serving our community, while you get property tax for it, you don't get a ton of sales tax. And so you're seeing a lot of real estate from a land standpoint that could be potential in the future being eaten up for mainly just property tax opportunity. Talking with Pearland council members, current and past, and talking with them because they have a car dealership that's right in the heart of Pearland, Bayway Chevrolet. And they wanted to see growth. They wanted to see things happen because they wanted to avoid certain things, other things from happening. But that is a prime spot right in the heart of Pearland that some of them say now, looking back, they wish that they hadn't gone down the route of seeing a car dealership there because of the potential of what it could be now. So I think, we don't want to see growth just for the sake of growth, and I think that's an important consideration to have here. Now, it's fully within your right to move forward with opening up this PUD. I'm only one individual, but that's some of the concerns that I have is, what could we lose out on 5 to 10 years in the future? Does anybody else want to add any comments?
I have a question. And this might be answered by you, Mr. Chris. In your experience, I know you don't have specific data based on the site plan in Manvel, we're just preliminarily talking here, but in your experience in the towns, can you give us a scenario kind of like Manvel that this reminds you of, a city or a small town where you guys had a nice sized dealership, then came in and built 2 in proximity, and what type of development came after that around there?
So, this is a great question. College Station comes to mind.
Okay.
We bought a dealership, probably back in 2014. We bought a group of dealerships. It was a Mazda store, a Hyundai store, and a Volkswagen store, and BMW, sorry. And we decided that it was at a very old facility, kind of in Bryan on Highway 6. We decided that it would be better suited for the community and for just in the moving area to be up close, if you're familiar with College Station, up at the Rock Prairie area. And so we found a tract of land that was very similar to this. It had neighborhoods that were behind it. They had been there for years, but it was all on Highway 6. And in fact, in the past, 20 years prior to us, there had been a car dealership trying to move there. And the citizens came out and they spoke against it and they were successful. That council ultimately supported the decision. And the reason College Station Council felt that way is because it is on Highway 6. It is a commercial property. Yes, there are neighborhoods located right behind it, but it's commercial all day, every day. And they recognized that. And they said, hey, we understand that you live there. We understand that it backs up to it. But given where the location is, it's on this major corridor, Highway 6. If you've been on it, you understand. Very similar to 288. And their sentiment is that it's a car dealership and that this is commercial area. And so we went, much like here, we went before council, we went to multiple meetings. We had some very long-winded meetings, and the citizens came out. It ultimately passed, and we built a BMW, we moved our BMW store there, we added a Hyundai store, and then we added a Mercedes-Benz store. I think if you go back now, the citizens have embraced it. It's a beautiful facility. There have been other commercial tracks that have moved out there. There's a Cooper's Barbecue that's right there on the corner. Everything else has come out to that area. And I think that we helped do that. I think that, we built these great looking facilities with lights and trees and really made them a part of the community. And we're very involved in the community, very involved in Texas A&M. And so I think all of that, hopefully that answers your question, in that to me is the closest example that I can give you to what this is. It feels very similar. Mm-hmm. I understand there's hesitation, but I think, given the location, given its proximity, given that it's on the highway, to me it lends itself, I know that's obviously my biased opinion, I get it, but it lends itself to being commercial property. And so that's kind of what it is.
I agree with that statement, just to be clear. Bayway was one of my clients on 518 for many years, and it is strategically the worst location. Maybe for them, the small area there, people who, have a Chevy, but anybody else, even getting there, it's not. I think if you're going to have a dealership, you want it to be on a highway, on a freeway, not a Highway 6 coming through, our small town. That point right there is very valid. I mean, that stretch of freeway is commercial, and it should be for commercial use. The other thing that comes to mind is something that Mayor Dan did say, is this will be the entrance to the 160 acres that we own, and that is of concern as well. And so if something like that were to come about, I would love to see maybe some plans to make it very beautiful, or if this did go through, obviously we have some hesitation, but I just think that there's more information needed for us to feel like it's a slam dunk. But I agree with your point as far as Highway 6. And then also, the other thing that I'm thinking of is just like HEB, once somebody comes and develops and invests there, that pretty much anchors for other people to take the risk and to come and see that there's development coming. And so clearly we want to attract that type of business as well, which is why I was leading to that question of who came, who invested after that. And you said a barbecue place and so forth. So just wanted to reiterate that. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you again, Chris.
We're not, looking for a slam, we'd love a slam dunk. But we understand that's why we're here. We're here for the discussion purposes. At the same time, I have visited with HEB and Kroger, shopping center developers widely. There's zero interest. So when you think about what might come here, and those people buy 3 to 5 to 7 years out, they are taking into account 1,000 homes, as much as it sounds like, plus the 500 that's here, is not going to support a major development. I had breakfast this morning with the folks with a company called Reed King. They're in the business of developing shopping centers. I'm happy to open our books to you. The guy said, well familiar with the site and location, David. Zero interest. Thanks for buying my breakfast.
Well, and to me, it seems like because of the location, it's situated right in front of a small community subdivision that has 500 homes, and then you have an estimated 1,000. So, I mean, I can see why there would be hesitation to develop something like that, because for people to gain access to it, it's not convenient for those specific types of businesses, right? Okay, thank you.
When that time would come, we would remain with 15 more acres. I mean, again, if HEB showed any interest, I'd be all over them. I know the HEB people. I know the Kroger people. I know all those folks. It's not just me. We've retained a broker. They're, it's not a 3 to 5 years out. Those homes are going to be finished. And if you're familiar with in Houston with City Center, which has got a hotel on it, an office complex, and multifamily, and commercial, that's not going to be here in the next 5 years. It's not going to be here in the next 10. And I understand that's what you want, and I'd be tickled to sell to somebody like that. But I've talked to those people. There is not any interest. That y'all may decide that's okay, but you should decide that's okay. We're going to sit with it like this for some time.
So what I hear you saying is that big developers like HEB, Kroger, those type of businesses or developers have no interest in that. It wouldn't be sustainable because, again, there would be 1,500 homes to sustain them. But what type of businesses would?
Smaller, the kind of users that would come on Del Bello would be small strip centers, food establishments, medical office would go there because 1,500 homes, would have an appeal for them. Dentist offices, that would have an appeal. In terms of a major development,
Not a major. So the major development we're talking about here is the dealership. And so if I'm understanding correctly, is this is the best we're going to get for this land at this moment in time.
Yes, ma'am, I'd go just a step further for this foreseeable future.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for answering my questions.
One more. I know you said that they're only interested in like 16 acres. Why don't you want the whole thing if it's that decent for you? It's just, you're going to leave that acreage sitting there and you're just going to mow the grass or?
Well, I have another buyer who is interested in all of it.
Right.
The Keating Toyota folks were only interested in 16 acres. I thought that Keating Toyota, having been a good corporate citizen, would be the most attractive for y'all's consideration. No, I have a buyer that's ready to go, that's a well-known, reputable dealership.
Just another dealership, though. Okay.
It's the land.
Yeah, it's where it's at.
He's going to
Yeah.
need part of that for drainage anyway,
Yeah.
so.
DeBello's got ponds.
Do you have any metrics as to the difference between what the types of sales and that you were doing where you were as opposed to moving here and seeing that we seem to, I know Alvin's growing, Manvel's growing, but is there any metrics that you have that you've done to that?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't have obviously the information here, but
Sure.
I can tell you that sales and service has dramatically increased as a result of the move. And I think it's important, too, to note, I mean, we think of car dealerships as a sales facility, and yes, that is it. But you also have to focus, it's a huge service facility. And that is one of the things and the key parts of being on the highway is that people can drop off their cars on to and from work. And, you know, it's one of those things that when you're not looking to buy a car, it may not matter where the dealership is, right? Well, it's okay, it can be. But when you need to service the car, you want one right down the street. And so, you know, us adding stores as additional service facilities for your citizens of whatever make and model they drive. You know, yes, you know, they typically franchise cars, they'll bring that brand in, but we service all makes and models. And so adding facilities gives more opportunities for your citizens or the people coming down the highway and passing through to pull in. I know that's a big thing with the hospitals up the way that Keating Toyota has done a great job of doing. They've marketed to those, and there's people that bring their vehicles in at lunch and they're able to get an oil change or whatever and then be right back to work or drop it off in the morning. And so sometimes it's easy to focus on the sales part, but I think the service is another big aspect of it that's important. And I think that providing those services and the ability for your citizens to have that is a huge thing for me.
So do you have cluster dealerships at other locations? You said your place in College Station had kind of a cluster of on Highway 6 in College Station, which now that you pointed them out, I know where they are.
Yes,
So
yes, ma'am, we do. We have several locations.
that have clusters like that?
Yes, ma'am. We actually bought, at the end of '21, we bought the Automax stores in Killeen. That's a Volkswagen, Hyundai, Ford facility and a huge, large, and it's all on one campus. So it's all there. So we have multiple locations.
And isn't that on 35?
There in Killeen, I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. That's one of our newer acquisitions. But to your question, yes, we do. And to your question a minute ago, yes, we have that data. It's something I'd obviously have to pull and come back at a future time to present. But yes, it has been very successful for us to move to Manvel. And I think that any dealership that we brought, I think would do very well here, just because I think there's a need. I think that y'all are right on the thoroughfare going through to Houston, and I think that people are looking for an opportunity for sales and service. And just to clarify one thing, we keep saying Keating Toyota, I think it's all understood. There's no affiliation, right? I mean, it would be a separate dealership. In fact, the property owner, we have a real estate holding company that owns all of our real estate, and each of our dealerships is owned and operated independently. I mean, Ben Keating is the primary owner, consistent among all of them, but they all stand alone is what I guess I'm saying.
Thank you. And so I guess my next question is for Dan. Mayor, why would you be against even opening up and looking at, I know it's be an expense for the developer to do so, but if we're not even willing to open up and look at what it could bring and, the options that we have, why would you be against that?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. One, few things that haven't been factored in is the overpass is coming on 288 that instantly opens up this tract of land to all of Rodeo Palms, all of Pomona. You also have a commercial development that we're in active talks just north of Del Bello Lakes as well. So there's a lot of potential for this land. And I think that it would be nearsighted of us to rush to jump at the first thing, even if it's the thing in the foreseeable future, to be developed on the land that comes into the city's 160 acres. There's been a lot of pushback in the community from Del Bello Lakes residents and from Rodeo Palms residents about having just one dealership at that location. Even though Keating has done a ton of good things for the community, having a dealership there has been a lot of pushback, not just for those, but throughout the entire city because of light infiltration, because of noise as well. I know there's been a lot of effort by our police department as well, because there are thefts that occur on the property. So then you open up the more of a potential for that. But then you also just have the overall, like I said, the overall potential. So I'm always open to data. I'm always open to them spending the time to conduct the studies to prove me wrong. That's at a cost to them, though. So if they're willing to invest the time and the money to do those studies to prove someone like myself wrong, then that's absolutely your prerogative, and I'll come into that with an open mind. But I think letting you know a little bit where my opinion stands from the get-go is doing you guys a favor, so that way you know kind of where the hesitancy comes from. Because the last thing that I would want is for you to get through the process all the way through when it comes to council, and then to face this, and then you're blindsided by that, and it throws things out of whack. I don't think that's fair to do to them.
So I guess I would question the pushback, I guess, because the dealerships, I don't see how the 160 acres is going to be any less light filtration or any less noise as a recreational facility to any homes that are going to be there. I mean, that's going to be a three-ring circus if you set up 160 acres so that area is going to be this is what that area is going to be, as you said. And to me, you want a dealership that's on an easy on and easy off. You want a dealership where you have options of service departments in town. And personally, I've always wondered why you put housing right on top of the freeway, but everybody does it and everybody's okay with it, and here we are. We're not wanting to put housing on top of it, we're wanting to put more commercial, which is what should be there. So, and maybe the drainage goes in between the housing and the, but I was just curious why you would not want to look at it. I would be interested in at least looking at, especially if they're already a great partner. Whatever's coming in the 160 acres is coming, but I don't know that it's coming anytime soon. But I would just.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'll say to that, Dorothy,
Thank
is
you.
my only comment back to that would be 160 acres is community focused, where people can go every single day and actively participate in the life of the 160 acres. For this, you're going there I use Keating Toyota. I have a Toyota truck. Love you guys. You guys service my vehicle, and I appreciate that. But you're only going there if you need something specifically done with your car. So I think it's different land use that entices different emotional connection with it as well, and that's something to consider. But I think where we're at right now is you guys have seen there is an openness, there is some hesitancy, there's some concern. And I think with that, if you guys want to spend some time doing some studies, if you want to initiate the amendment of the PUD and kind of kick off that process, or if you would like to spend some time, do the studies, come back before us to get our thoughts, hopefully tonight was at least somewhat beneficial, clear as mud, as to where we're at for a few things. So any other comments or questions from PD&Z Council? Well, I appreciate everybody taking the time and being here for tonight. I appreciate both of you guys coming forward. We're going to kind of get in the groove of doing some things like this, and we want to make sure to collaborate with our community partners and fellow members. So thank you, gentlemen. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add? No? Anything else from city staff? No? Okay, what we will do then is I will make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? All right, yeah, it looks like it passes. So we will adjourn at 6:36 PM. Let's just take 5 minutes to reset, and then we'll kick off the regular meeting. I appreciate everybody's patience for being here tonight.